Okay, let's dive right into this. Welcome to this explainer on the science of making upgrades that actually stick. You know, every single year, millions of us set out to totally transform our lives. We decide, this is it, I'm going to hit the gym 5 days a week, or I'm going to read 50 books, or finally master that skill we've been putting off forever. But, well, we all know exactly how that usually goes, right?
I mean, for the first 3 days, we feel absolutely invincible. We are literally crushing our goals. But then day 4 rolls around, and suddenly we're back on the couch, endlessly scrolling through our phones at 2 a.m., just wondering why change feels so impossibly hard. It is incredibly frustrating. To understand why this happens, I want you to imagine your brain as this dense, untamed jungle. Every single time you make a new decision or try to force a brand new habit, it's like you're trying to hack your way through these thick, stubborn vines with the tiny little machete.
Section 1. The brain's energy problem. Hacking through a literal jungle takes a massive amount of effort, right? Well, let's look at the biological mechanisms here, specifically your brain's huge energy problem. See, your brain is an absolute metabolic powerhouse. Even though it only makes up about 2% of your total body weight, it hogs roughly 20% of your resting energy. That is a crazy disproportion. Basically, firing up your brain to make conscious, deliberate decisions costs you as much energy, metabolically speaking, as running a physical marathon.
And this brilliantly illustrates exactly why our brains fight change so hard. Because energy is a limited resource in nature, your brain actively hates wasting it. So to survive, it creates literal shortcuts. Think of these like beautifully cleared trails in that dense jungle. When you repeat an action, your brain clears the brush. The more you walk that exact path, the smoother and easier it becomes. This trail is what we call a routine, and it's created for one purpose: to conserve your precious energy.
Section 2. Planner versus impulsive toddler.
To really master our habits, we have to understand exactly who is walking those jungle trails. And this brings us to a fantastic conceptual framework. There are two very distinct characters running your mind. First up, we have the wise planner. This is your goal-directed system. The planner is slow, it's analytical, and it is deeply focused on the future. This is the part of your brain that logically knows, hey, eating broccoli today and going for a run means I'll be way healthier in 10 years. But there is a massive catch. The planner gets exhausted very, very quickly. It burns right through that 20% energy reserve.
So when the planner gets tired, who takes over? The impulsive toddler. This is your automatic habitual system. And let me tell you, the toddler does not care about your 10-year health plan. It only cares about right now. It completely hates hard work, it acts entirely on impulse, and it wants whatever feels good immediately. It is the absolute king of that cleared jungle path.
When we compare these two side by side, a super fascinating dynamic emerges. When you repeat a set of actions over and over in the exact same environment, the control in your brain actually hands off. It shifts from your totally exhausted planner directly over to the automatic toddler. And the toddler loves those clear jungle trails because, you guessed it, they require zero energy to navigate.
Let's look at a really famous study that shows just how automatic this toddler actually is. Imagine walking into a dark room. You see the trigger, the light switch. You take action, you flip it. And you get the outcome, the light turns on. Over time, your toddler memorizes this exact path. Well, in one study, researchers put people into a brightly lit room, equipped with an automatic motion sensor that turned the lights on for them. But they left a completely useless, disconnected physical switch on the wall. Guess what happened? People with a strong habit reached right out and flipped that switch anyway. The toddler wasn't doing it for the outcome anymore. It was literally just mindlessly reacting to the trigger.
Section 3. Stop relying on willpower. Understanding that this toddler takes over is a total game changer. Why? Because it completely destroys a myth that society has been feeding us for decades. We absolutely have to stop relying on willpower. So, the crucial point here is that self-control capacity does not actually increase your habit strength. We all tend to assume that people who eat flawlessly or hit the gym every single day just have this superhuman willpower, right? But longitudinal studies prove the exact opposite. Highly successful people aren't waking up and fighting this grueling battle against their impulsive toddler every single morning. Nope, they've simply bypassed the decision-making process entirely by building deep, totally effortless routines.
Okay, so how do we actually do that? Well, the first strategy is something called chunking. See, vague goals like getting fit absolutely terrify both the planner and the toddler because they just sound exhausting. Instead, you need to find the very first point of friction and make it microscopic.
Don't focus on surviving a grueling 45-minute workout. Lower the energy threshold until it takes almost zero effort to start. Tell yourself your only goal is just to put on your running shoes. That's it. You are basically tricking the toddler into taking that very first step onto the path.
Section 4. Building effortless triggers.
Once you've shrunk that behavior down to a microscopic step, you need to make sure the toddler actually wants to do it. And this brings us to our second strategy. Now, what's really interesting about this massive 51% jump is how it was actually achieved. In a landmark behavioral study, researchers took something people really struggle to do, going to the gym, and paired it with something they desperately wanted to do, listening to highly addictive audiobook novels. But they gave participants access to these audiobooks only while they were physically at the gym. And what happened? Gym attendance literally skyrocketed by 51%.
This brilliant strategy is called temptation bundling. By pairing an action that requires effort, the should, with an immediate indulgence, the want, you make the behavior instantly rewarding to that immediate focused toddler. And you can design this for yourself right now. Tell yourself you can only listen to your absolute favorite comedy podcast while you're folding the laundry, or you can only watch that gripping new drama series while you're walking on the treadmill. Instantly, the toddler is motivated.
But we still need a trigger to start the whole sequence, right? Look at how these two cues compare. A time-based cue, like saying, "I will floss at 8 a.m., forces the planner to watch the clock and proactively initiate the action. It's exhausting. But a routine-based cue, like, "I will floss right after I brush my teeth," anchors the new habit to an action you already do on autopilot. Studies consistently show that routine-based cues create much faster automation. Why? Because that established habit serves as a physical, totally effortless trigger to launch the new behavior.
Section 5. The real habit timeline.
Okay, so you've chunked your habits, you've bundled your temptations, and you've set up your routine-based cues. How long until this actually becomes automatic? Let's ground this explainer in reality for a second and bust one of the biggest myths in the entire self-improvement world. You have probably heard that it takes exactly 21 days to form a habit. Well, that number actually comes from a misinterpretation of old pop psychology, not from rigorous data. In reality, Dr. Philip Allally's research at University College London tracked real people building daily habits, and they found it takes anywhere from 18 to 254 days.
So listen, if you are past day 21 and you are still struggling, please know that you are not broken. The actual median time in that research to reach peak automaticity, which is where the toddler takes over completely, is 66 days. And depending on how complex the task is, it could take a lot longer. Honestly, giving yourself some grace and setting realistic expectations is a vital part of this whole science.
Habit formation actually follows what's called an asymptotic curve, which builds right on top of our timeline data. What that means in plain English is that your early repetitions give you the absolute biggest gains in clearing out that jungle path. But here is the most important takeaway. Missing a single day does not derail the process. Occasional slip-ups absolutely do not erase the path you've carved in your brain. You don't get sent back to square one just because you missed a Tuesday workout. That path is still there, just waiting for you to walk it again tomorrow.
Ultimately, change just isn't about sheer force of will. It's about understanding the biological machinery running under the hood. So use your Wise Planner today to design your environment and set up those easy triggers so your impulsive toddler can effortlessly walk down that jungle path tomorrow. Taking all this science into account, I want to leave you with this to think about. What is one small, microscopic habit you are trying to build right now, and exactly how can you bundle it with the temptation today?